Hello, everyone. Welcome to Deaf Mute Studio. This is the Murmur by Deaf podcast. I'm joined today by Matt Owen, and today we need to talk about Total Recall. So, Total Recall, Arnold Schwarzenegger film from 1990. That baffled me. I always had it pegged as an 80s film, but 80s, late 80s, 1990, it's pretty much the same thing. So, You messaged me yesterday, mate, and said you were throwing it on. You were sending me a few voice notes, and I was like, "Shit, man, I want to watch Total Recall now." So I whack it on, and by Joe, it's violent. I'm not sure about you, but like sometimes with films, I need to watch a film that can quench my blood thirst. Sometimes I just need to see violence that doesn't immediately affect me in the safety of a film. I need people knocking fuck out of each other. I need squibs going off left, right, and center. I need just pure gratuity. And for me, that's what Total Recall is. But it's a deeper film than that. Not many people give it its due as a very intelligent film. And I was just wondering, what are your initial thoughts on Total Recall?
Yeah, I completely agree with what you've just said there. But like, just going back, I can't remember the first time I watched it. But what I can say for certain is I wasn't old enough to watch it.
Oh yeah.
And I was probably 1990 when it was released. I would have been 5, and I'm guessing, I must have watched this by 1995. So, at most I was 10. Can't quite remember how. I mean, obviously I didn't go to cinema to see it. So it must have been, someone must have had a VHS copy in the family and somehow it found its way to me. But I remember when I was a kid, the thing that I remember most vividly was the violence and the action. I probably would have watched Robocop around the same time as well, which is, right up there in terms of really similar aesthetically in terms of the violence and, like you were saying about the squibs and just the nature of it all. But it's weird because like when you watch it when you're a kid, you there's certain things you pick up on, the woman with the 3 jugs.
I knew you'd say that, yeah.
And it's like, is this science fiction or is this reality? Can this happen? A woman with 3 boobs? And you find out not, but it is very much like as well. It's like a male fantasy in many ways, and it's an interesting film to watch when you're a young lad sort of thing. But when I rewatched it, when we started talking about it, there was just loads of other things that had jumped out to me, which I'd never noticed before. I watched it when the 4K special edition came out, but I didn't watch the 4K edition. I only had a Blu-ray player then, and it wasn't marked or seemed to be an upgrade, colour and picture wise and stuff. But having watched it back in 4K, like, first thing that stood out is like you just notice all the scenery and the production design of it a lot more, which is a really cool element. It's like it's a little bit Sid Mead, but not too much. And I think that's one of the ways that it gets you into it. Although it is a science fiction film, all the locations and everything that you see in there, it still feels like a tangible world. It doesn't seem like, something really far removed. And I think in a way that kind of gets you into it. But yeah, there was loads of elements. I mean, Verhoeven's work, he is concerned with fascism quite a lot. And, the way that really stood out to me this time viewing it, in terms of all the propaganda that kind of, you know, is brainwashing Quaid, you know, and seem to be nudging him, pushing him back to go to Mars, sort of thing. And you know, for the people who haven't seen it, supposedly, he's just, you know, the average bloke bored of his wife and his lifestyle, and he's got this dream, you know, to move to Mars. It seems like this exotic place, but you know, when you see it on the telly, it's like in the midst of a civil war, and like it's, you know, the fascist government are ruling it, and they're just kind of, I mean, there's a massive parallel as well that I picked up on, and it's about this almost totalitarian government that's mining Mars for its resources, as opposed to, you know, what's going on in the world today, which is it's very similar in terms of all the stuff that's going on politically, and you know, there's activists and groups and people really pushing back against stuff now, whether it's like fracking or, you know, the you know, the cutting down rainforests or whatever. That parallels there even then, in, you know, late 80s into the 90s, and you know, that's what fashion is ultimately, isn't it? It's the destruction of something, and in this, it takes the form of, you know, this dictator. You know, what's his name? Ronnie Cox plays the bad guy, Cohagen. That's it.
Yes.
And you know, for more like the shuttles and spaceships that you see, it looks like it's all like mining stuff, and it's building sort of a structure for people to house people in and live in, and that. And you know, the way that kind of comes across is in the sort of the mutant slums. That's where kind of you know, the rebellion comes from, the working class, what have you, and then everyone else is living the high life. But you know, it's good filmmaking because it's timeless, and you can apply it to today. And you know, it is extremely violent, and you know, it stands long in the mind, and you know, even from its first viewing, watching it 20 years later, 30 years later, you know, you'll get something, you'll notice something which you didn't the first time round.
Yeah, completely agree, mate. I mean, with Verhoeven, I think he was born just maybe just during, maybe just after World War II. I'm not sure of his age, but he's taken a lot of influence from his life, being the aftermath of the Nazi regime, and to put that into a film, like you say, it is timeless because fascism will always exist in some form or another throughout time. It's not something that can be eradicated. It's something that's always, especially lately, we're getting far extremes from everywhere, really. So it's to watch Total Recall again. It's great and depressing at the same time that this is still a thing, but yet, like you said, it makes the film absolutely timeless and still applicable to this day. It's impressive how a film from 1990 can still live on this long. And I'm like you, I never picked up on this when I was little. I mean, I'm in the same boat. I can't remember the first time I watched it. I'm pretty sure I watched it for the first time with my mum, because she was the gatekeeper to all the best films. Like, I watched Predator with her, Predator 2, all the Aliens. So obviously I'm going to watch an Arnold Schwarzenegger film with her because she loves Arnold Schwarzenegger. And it's mad to think that, because it's clearly an 18. And like you said, we were not old enough to watch that at any point during our childhood.
I think it was the same with me. I think with my mum, like, having grown up with her, obviously Schwarzenegger was like a huge deal in the 80s and going into the 90s and stuff. So, you know, I probably watched Terminator with her. Commando was always a favourite in our in our house, which, you know, I always, that's a good point, like, but like the violence in Commando, which is, you know, he's a one-man army who, you know, it's just so much more reserved, and almost benign compared to the way Verhoeven treats it. And I don't know if it's like a European sensibility thing versus like a Hollywood thing, but it just, the tone and like everything, all the violence in it, like last night, like there's just little things that you pick up on, like just trying to think when the sort of in the final moments of the film, what happens and the eruption that's caused, even the explosion of the glass in the dome that they're in, like it doesn't shower the people. It like, if you watch it, it like cuts right through. Like you feel the impact of everything. And the scene where he uses the hologram to trick out all the soldiers.
No.
And you know, Michael Ironside, who is kind of the main agent who's charged with capturing Quaid, and you know he's stalking him and chasing him and that. Like he has this look on his face which is almost like an orgasm when he thinks they're all killing him and they're all shooting him, and like it just adds this almost like extra layer to he's taking this almost satisfaction in watching him die finally. And obviously the further the film goes on, you understand that dynamic more by, you know, I mean, ultimately he is, you know, a fascist soldier, Quaid, in it, who's agreed to have his memory deleted so he can infiltrate, you know, these activists or these guerrillas which are trying to overthrow the regime. And so obviously you understand that there must have been a level of competition between Schwarzenegger's character and Ironside's, and that's kind of where that comes from. He's taking pleasure in seeing this guy, you know, go get fucked off, get killed, and he can kind of get in there with Cohagen, Ronnie Cox's character, who's the big cheese, the Boris Johnson of the piece, should we say?
Well, I think he's more capable than him, isn't he?
Without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, the bit that really got me towards the violence, and at first I thought it was, well, what's that doing in there? But it was the bit where, near the beginning, where they're chasing Arnold Schwarzenegger and it's up the escalators and they shoot the random civilian. I was like, well, Verhoeven's clearly enjoyed squibbing this guy up, and
it like tears up his arm, doesn't it? Like flicks.
It is. But he takes it to another degree by, I don't know why I picked up on this, but the guy who gets shot, he falls down, and then it cuts to a shot of him on the floor with Michael Ironside's character and his posse trampling the body. And I was like, that could have easily been cut. But then I was thinking, well, that fits in well with that organization's view on common people. It's like they give a fuck about no one. There's no consideration. There's no conscience to them. It's just that's very fascism, direct. Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally. I mean, unbeknowingly, you know, Quaid becomes like an avatar, doesn't he, for the viewer, and you're going on that journey with him, learning what's happening. And when you look at him, he's like, you know, he's a construction worker, so he's like a working class bloke, and then ultimately, you know, he gets into this position where he's with these sort of political guerrilla group trying to overthrow the government, and like his allies are like sex workers, mutants, the downtrodden, you know, all the people that, you know, that's what's really good about it. I think in a way, and you know, they didn't have to put that mutant angle into it, and they don't really go into it that much and explore or explain why there's mutants. It would have been far more rational to have some like alien hybrid or whatever, given that supposedly, you know, there's an alien created reactor which can, if it's activated, generate an atmosphere, and therefore, you know, everyone will be able to live on Mars, out in the open or whatever, and you know, they won't have to rely on this sort of fascist government to provide air. I mean, that idea in itself, isn't it? Like, they've put a price on oxygen on air. You know, that's capitalism, and that's everything what's happening now.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's not too far off. I mean, I think it was. I'm not very clued up on politics, but I'm pretty sure there was something going around about Hillary Clinton wanting to privatize water. I was like, fucking hell.
Well, even like Evian or, you know, fucking Highland Spring or whoever, like, really, you shouldn't have to pay for fucking water, should you? It's like, we exist, well, we came from fucking water, didn't we? Do you know what I mean? There was water before there was humans, sort of thing. So, you know, that does exist to a degree, I suppose, in life now. And, you know, if someone wants a drink of water, if someone's dehydrated, you shouldn't have to pay a fucking quid for a bottle of it. But, you know, that Hillary Clinton thing doesn't surprise me. But then again, it could be a bit of fake news propaganda.
It could be. I am, like I say, I haven't got my thumb on the pulse of politics. I don't think I ever will, to be honest. So I'll stick with films where I'm perfectly harmless. But yeah, it's one thing. I've not seen Total Recall in ages, and I always remember the is it real? Is it a simulation? And this bit really kettled my head, because I know the film lands on it is real, but it also hints at, it just drops little nuggets of, is it though? And it was the bit where he first goes to what's the place called?
Recall.
Thank you. Yes, how could I forget? When he first goes to Recall.
That was always going to happen at some point in the podcast, wasn't it?
Well, I am very well known for making a tit of myself on these things, so let's be having you, as Delia Smith says. But it's the bit where he's going Recall and he's picking his plan, what he wants. He's like, I want to be a secret agent, and then he's picking his love interest, and it's a picture of what's her name? Melina. It's like, oh, brunette, like blah blah blah. He picks out character traits and all that. And I was thinking, are Recall in on it? Are they working for what's his name? Cohagen. Because like everything is it is essentially a simulation that he's in, but I was sitting there last night going, it is real, but is it? And it's a proper. You can see the Matrix had a very strong liking to this film, but I was like, I always land on it is real just to save me thinking about it. But the more and more I think, it's like it is a simulation, surely.
I mean, this is like dead interesting. I'm well into this. You know, Philip K. Dick obviously was the geezer who wrote it originally. We can remember it for your wholesale. There's a point in Dick's career where he basically, I think he'd run out of, he hadn't been writing for a couple of years or something, and he went to this literature sort of exhibition, probably the literature equivalent of like a Comic-Con, and it was in France. And he gave this seminar where he basically outlined that we live in a matrix. It's on YouTube and stuff. It's if you're into that sort of thing, simulation theory and that, it's really interesting. And then he talks about how his own life, how he came to realise that, you know, he was in a simulation, and basically the multiverse, which you now know, which is now popularised in like obviously the Marvel films and everything, but that this was something that he was pushing in the 70s. And you know, he believed that we live in a multiverse and there's all these different tangent realities and stuff. And you know, he wrote a couple of books then, which I think Valis most famously is like the one where it delves into it. And there's one called The 7 Lives of Someone or Other. And you know, it's kind of touched on in all the works afterwards in terms of like Scanner Darkly and stuff. And you know, this idea of multiple personalities and everything. And, you know, it's even there in Blade Runner in terms of, is he a replicant, isn't he? You know, and there's different questions and stuff posed and that. But with Total Recall, I don't think it explicitly... I think it's obvious thinking about it now that, like, for me, that it is not a dream.
Nah.
But there's nothing glaring statement that says that. But then there's little nuggets and stuff in there that, you know, the guy, like you're saying, when he's programming, it's like they call it program blue sky, which is obviously the last shot of the film. And, you know, there's little things in there, little leading things, like you said, Melina's on the screen when the program and all that sort of stuff. And you know, there's little things that, like, the MacGuffins or stuff that challenges you to work it out. I mean, I love that scene where when the doctor arrives and he knocks on the door and he walks in. He's the guy who's actually been in the adverts when he's on the train and watching the telly. And you know, up to a certain point, you're like, oh my God, this is like, you're going to find out here. You know, you kind of draws you in a way which you think, oh yeah, God, it is. And he's just had, like, what do they call it, a schizoid embolism.
Yeah.
And you know, you have this scene which is quite tense, and then Sharon Stone comes in and it's a bit of a standoff, and then he's got the gun to his head, and, you know, he's looking at him, and then this little bead of sweat just rolls down his head.
I love that scene. It's so good.
It's fucking brilliant. I mean, that in itself, just the way he shoots him in the head, and, like, how they've made that bullet, like, it doesn't splatter like in a horror film or anything like that. It just felt real. If the action and the gore feels really authentic, but over the top at the same time. You know, there's just loads of little bits in there, and then, you know, it's kind of a double cross, isn't it? That, like I said before, that Hauser and Cohagen have been in cahoots, and because they can't rat out the guerrilla sort of, you know, opposition that's arisen from it all, then he is that much of a fascist that he is willing to have his mind wiped to then be sent to Earth and then have all this sort of, you know, it is very much set up like a simulation, isn't it? You're right, actually thinking about it even more. And then they know ultimately that there'll be certain residual memory which will push him back to Mars and inadvertently lead him to, you know, Melina to the Resistance, and how it all pans out. And, you know, there's that other character in it which I never really thought about, Benny. And, like,
Benny, he's got 5 kids to feed.
Well, he changed it to 4 at one point as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, right at the end.
Shit, man, you got me. But yeah, there's just loads of nice little reveals in it, like the whole mutant angle, and, like, I think the other elements of the violence in it, and I think I mentioned this to you on voice notes, the actual physics of a lot of things in it don't work. So, and to me, that was quite violent. Like, so as an example, when he gets to, like,
drag.
When it's Annie in drag, and that was that woman, and, like, the helmet or the mask or whatever it is, like, it's shot on an angle, and the ear sort of opens, but it's like this orange silver bar, which as soon as you see it and you see into it, like, logistically and, like, the physics of it, that couldn't wrap around, that couldn't go through because your head would be in the way.
Yeah.
So there's all, like, these little bits in it, and you think, and it's a little bit unnerving when you think of it. And I know it's not violent, like, you know, you've seen someone getting shot or anything like that, but there's just little things, Nick, and because they don't work, it's a bit like, it throws you slightly, but it's not, the film doesn't take itself too seriously, so these things, they don't end up mattering.
I think I completely agree, and because of like the physicality of stuff like that, it just helps the film even more with the is it real, is it a simulation, and with that it's just nothing's ever, we're not pandered to as an audience, we're not spoon fed information like you said at the start, we're smack bang on this journey with no real exposition.
Absolutely.
And it's just the reason why I really enjoyed watching it last night was like it just gives its audience a lot of credit and go, well, these are all the bits that we're going to put in. Feel free to figure it out. I'm not going to tell you what it is or it isn't. And I think that's how it's, in a story sense, that's how it's standard the test of time.
Yeah.
Just because it's so mature in that terms of storytelling, and also I just bloody love all the physical effects, like especially the cross-dressing scene where you can clearly see when it's not the actress and it is puppets, animatronics, or like some sort of animation. It's just so cool to see, and you're like, someone's put time and effort into that. And it really looks great. And it's like Benny with his mutant arm. That looked amazing.
Yeah, and it's freaky. And like, what's really cool about it is, I don't know if you remember this, but obviously they've been surrounded by a couple of those militia who they're looking for, and they've all got flashlights. And because his arm is like, it's almost like if you didn't have the muscle for this bit. Yeah. So like the way that the bones are, and the guy who stood behind with the flashlight, it's silhouettes because the light's going through it. And I was, maybe it is just because I'm watching that 4K version last night, so I was looking specifically for like aesthetics, but there's just little things like that, you can see through the arm, and you're not looking for the trickery because it is so sort of like imaginative, and you can tell it's physically being made. It's, something which is being attached to the actor and then has been blocked accordingly. And like, I always, another element that I love with Benny was like that there are all these, fascist plants that are within it. And I was thinking, I wonder like if they planned on, if there was any deleted scenes in anyone else, or, there was going to be more of that sort of undercover element at one point. But the way then he comes back into it later, and he's driving that sort of, construction for the underground mining thing. And like, I was just thinking, that's just what happens to like Arnie gets thrown in the meat slicer, doesn't he, for the entire film, gets fucking battered and what have you, and like that whole scene sort of, it's just fucking great. You think, what's going to happen here?
And another thing with Benny, we don't even get his motives.
No.
You're just like, oh shit, man, you got me. It's like, okay, because it's great because everyone in film now has to have a motive. Every single character. Why are you working for them, Benny? Oh, well, the resistance, my family got caught in resistance gunfire, so I turned to the bad side. It's like, no, I'm just doing it and that's all you need to know. I'm just doing it. And I was like, yeah, we can make up our own backstory for Benny. It's boss.
It's interesting as well that, like, they've got that they didn't go down that territory and just, again, you can just make up your own decision around it. He needed the money. And like the reality of it is, if Quaid would have been captured, killed, converted, re-indoctrinated, whatever would have happened, Benny would turn up for his collection, whatever that may be, and he'd just get a bullet in the back of the head, because that's just the way that whole operation works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you get involved with that sort of level of criminality or fascism or, whatever it is you want to label it, then you're fucked. Like, whether if you survive it, you're fucking morally and ethically bankrupt. You might as well be dead, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is good the way everything's left open. And, I think the one thing, which we started this with was about the violence and the level of it. And, we've got to talk about Quato, who's obviously the mutant leader of the resistance.
He's a tough cat to look at, isn't he?
He is. And I don't think I've ever picked up on this before, but he's the doctor, isn't he? The doctor plays Quato, the guy who shoots when Sharon Stone turns up. Is that not the same fella?
Is he?
I don't know if it is in the cast, but he's got the same comb over, hasn't he? a baby comb over, a baby Bobby Charlton.
Oh, poor Roy Brocksmith, who plays that doctor, being compared to Quato. God bless him.
But that whole scene of, because at that point you don't know who he is, so you're thinking it's going to be this massive, I don't know, like, is it going to be an alien? Are the mutants really, have they swapped DNA or been infected by their DNA, and that's what's caused that? That's something which isn't explained or explored. And I don't know what I was thinking, what it was going to be. But then, like, when that guy walks away from screen and he's kind of like, looks like he might be having some type of convulsion, and then he turns round and this almost animatronic baby is popped out of his stomach and he's kind of in some type of trance state. I was just like, that scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Oh, mate, it scared the shit out of me last night. I completely forgot, because in itself of him swapping consciousness, it's quite violent with him. It's not like an easy, this is Quato, boom, here you are, kid. It's and you're like, oh my God, it's gut wrenching. And to that little horrible little hand, and the way he talks, the way he talks as well. If it was shot today, he'd be talking like a British thespian, but it's laid. It's wait. I know that's when he's dying, like, but I mean, even his death scene was hard to take. I think, I'm not sure if you told me this or it was on the commentary when I watched it years later, but you see Quato get shot in the head, don't you?
Yeah.
And that, I think that was taken out for a long time by either the BBFC or the American version of the BBFC, because Quato's so childlike. It's essentially showing a kid getting shot in the head.
Yeah, it's just like seeing a baby get shot. Not that I've seen a baby get shot, but, literally in terms of the size and how he looks. I think for years, if it was shown on TV, it was edited. And then I think it might have changed with when they first did a DVD, a certain DVD cut, and it was restored to how it was meant to be. But I think if you watch Total Recall on the telly still to this day, I think it's edited quite dramatically. But it's disgusting, and what's disgusting about it is it's not necessarily the incident of you see the hole and the blood and all that. It's actually the next scene when they've decided to bring the body to Cohagen's headquarters and he's laying there on a slab. Now, straight away, it's kind of like it's going to be a dummy, potentially. Maybe the actor was in there, but when you look at it and then it's kind of slightly, it's not decomposed, but it's all gone pale. Like his body's gone pale because he's died and that, and it adds another, it makes what's gone before it even worse. And it's done in a way where if you listen, because he's obviously bled out and he's had the cover on him, the blanket's wet. You hear you hear the blanket as it's lifted, and then even Cohagen, who's the most vile character in the entire film, he's like top of the tree. Like, he can bear to look at it like for less than a second, and he slaps the cover back down. It's like it's even too much for him. It's fucking horrible.
It was a Buzz's girlfriend moment, wasn't it?
Absolutely. How we segued from Total Recall to Home Alone there. But again, that's what makes this film really powerful and stuff. And I love, I mean, I need to dip into all the extras and stuff, the new stuff that's been made, because I'd just love to hear the dialogue and conversations around getting that film through, censorship and classification. I imagine what the original cut was like if that's what we've ended up with.
No.
It's really interesting. I think it's really really interesting film in terms of because it just is so violent. It's almost like there's nothing like that since. There's been stuff that sticks out, but not on that scale to me.
No, I agree, mate. Everything past that, particularly mainstream Hollywood, is very sanitized. Even horror, it's this weird use of CGI blood splatter that you're not really. It doesn't really strike you the same as having like a squib pack and it being, because with a CGI splatter, it's more style than anything. But with a squib pack, that it adds to the violence because you don't know where all the blood's gonna splatter to. It's kind of random in that way, and I think like I absolutely adore this film. I think it's fantastic in terms of its violence, its storytelling, its tone. Everything about it is great, and let's not forget it's got an absolutely incredible cast.
The cast is unfucking believable, and what I will say is as well, two really fucking strong leads in Sharon Stone and it's the Mexican girl. I can never remember her name.
Oh, Rachel Ticotin.
She's I always remember from this, and she's the sort of junior police detective in Fallen Down, which raises the whole thing to Robert Duvall.
Oh.
But yeah, she was like, I think it felt like in Sharon Stone, they probably had arguably the biggest actress after Sigourney Weaver, in that period in the 80s. I can't kind of think of anyone else off the top of my head, but
I mean,
them two women are badass in it, aren't they? Like,
I mean, I've just clicked on IMDb for Rachel Ticotin, and I'm going to struggle with that surname. She was in Con Air. Guard Sally Bishop. I was like, what? But but going to Sharon Stone. Oh my God, I love Sharon Stone. She's in this film. If I was Quaid and I was married to Sharon Stone, she would have killed me the first time. I would have been suckered in. I was like, oh, I believe you, Sharon Stone. You're so pretty, and I'd be dead.
Out of interest, which way would you have preferred to go? Because obviously she's got that gun trained on him when he first comes back after killing his mate Harry and the others. But then she picks up that knife. So would you either take the bullet train or the knife joust right through the heart?
Honestly, I'd prefer to go out GoldenEye style and have her crush me to death with her thighs. But it's Sharon Stone. You need to make this thing last, so I'd go with the knife. You need to savor it. But I had a little look on the trivia bit, and I thought this was hilarious. It's about Sharon Stone. It's like after seeing Sharon Stone's performance as Laurie in this movie, director Paul Verhoeven cast her in Basic Instinct due to her ability to play a character that could change from timid, charming sweetheart to a diabolical person and back again in a moment's notice. He also stated that this is what Sharon Stone is like in real life.
Fucking hell. I mean, yeah. I mean, he's worked with her often enough, I suppose, but maybe she'd laugh at that. But then, like, you look at the roles that she inhabits, and she plays Ginger in Casino, doesn't she? And it's just, she's so good in Casino. It's just effortless. So what I will say is there's probably an element of truth in that quote from Paul Verhoeven, but at the end of the day, the performances that she's put in over the years, absolutely fucking unbelievable.
I mean, I think this is my favorite Sharon Stone performance in this film because she absolutely nails it, and I prefer it when she plays baddie in this because she does it so well. It's when when Quaid shoots the doctor and she starts twatting him. It's like, I fucking hate this planet. Like, yeah, you are. And you see them, he's getting dragged down the hallway and she's just strutting down it like the most evil bitch known to man. And I'm like, you play it, girl. That's that's amazing. And it's super attractive. I'm not gonna lie. But another key actor who I love, I'm pretty sure you love him too, because every film fan should, is Michael Ironside.
I'd like to say, I don't think this is the best for me. This is his pinnacle, Ironside. But Starship Troopers, mate. He's so good in Starship Troopers.
You would follow him to a bug hive, wouldn't you? I'd be like, yeah, Radchak's Roughnecks all the way, son.
Absolutely, mate. What's that line that he has? You don't do your job, I'll shoot you myself. Like, yeah. It's like, it's just unbelievable. Like, the way he delivers all those lines, and you believe him as a leader. He's got like this aura and natural sort of charisma, and I think part of the reason why this is my favourite performance from him is that he gets so much screen time. I've never seen him in another film with as much screen time as this, and similar to what you were saying there with Sharon Stone, he's better as a bad guy. He's great as kind of a mentor in Starship Troopers and stuff, but there's no one quite like Michael Ironside.
He does it so well, doesn't he? You fucking despise him when he comes on the screen, but you just revel in watching him be a knobhead.
But you know what it's like? I don't know if you've ever seen any, and again, it goes back to the fascism thing, but like, if you look at historically, like, who famous Nazis were married to, the wives were often really fucking beautiful. And I'm not slagging Michael Ironside off here, but he ain't, he's not the best.
Well, he's no Arnold Schwarzenegger, is he?
Well, no, he's not. And that whole sort of Laurie's relationship with him, and obviously, he's essentially letting his wife be pimped out, and obviously that's where a lot of the malice comes from in terms of, his hate for housing and his wife's had to go undercover and he's fucking banging her every single night. Do you know what I mean? It's like...
he's the Will Smith of Total Recall.
He is the Will Smith of Total Recall. Ironically, though, by the end of the film, he can't slap anyone because he's got no arms, but... no, that's another thing entirely. But he does get so much screen time in this, and maybe he has been in a lot of stuff. It's just me not venturing out to go and find it, and maybe he does get a screen time in other films. But
no, I'm with you on this, mate. I can't really. He's always been at a. I mean, he's a very accomplished character actor, but it's mainly bit parts. Essentially, in Total Recall, due to screen time, he is the main villain.
Yeah.
And yeah, unfortunately, he doesn't seem to get as big of those parts. And
yeah, I mean, I always, when I was younger, I used to get mixed up. I always thought he was in, I can't remember it, the dad from that 70s show, who's the bad guy in Robocop.
Oh,
and Michael Ironside, they look very similar in terms of dark hair, again, bald.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, I always thought, oh, I'd love to have seen him. I'm not saying because he looks like him, then he should have been cast in Robocop. But I always thought, I wondered if there was a decision to be made on whether Ironside was in Robocop and vice versa for this, because they're both very similar looking character actors. Although Ironside is just a different level of cool.
Yeah, and they both bring very much the same energy. They always give it like a very commanding performance. So it would have been great to see them play brothers in a film somewhere. That would have been amazing.
That would have been quite cool. Right. That would have been.
And as we're on the cast, I need to do a special shout out because I always forget this until I watched it last night. But there's a moment that you never really get to see in a big Hollywood film, and I'm not sure if it's politically correct to say it, but the lady dwarf, small person, the lady the little prostitute, she gets a really badass scene in it.
She's fucking class. I put it on a similar level there in terms of badassness as Sharon Stone and Melina. Like, I mean, that scene when she picks up that fucking knife and charges at that fucking fella, like, she stabs him in the heart. Like, if you look at the next cut, she's put that fucking, it's not a knife, it's a fucking machete, but it thrusts it right through his fucking heart. And she's got Jack Burton's gun from Big Trouble in Little China.
I thought I recognised it.
I don't know what it was. That gun must have been doing the rounds in the 80s, with like armourers and Hollywood and stuff.
No.
Because it does look quite unique. It's got like this fucking mad battle on with like holes drilled into it for like heat or what have you, and it's got like a long clip on the front. It's weird. I've got loads of gun knowledge based on 80s action films. It's unbelievable. Did you go on that day when we were in school, when we were in high school, and we went to like a military training thing, and it was, I'm sure you were on it, and we went on like I don't know what you call it. We did a bit of shooting, then we did a bit of like the activity where you're on like it's like in Starship Troopers where, I don't know what you call it, an assault course. Did you not go on this?
No, what? I would have went on that.
I thought you would have been. And then at the end of that, basically, they took us into this like room for like a seminar, like to end the day, and it's about an hour long. And what they do is, and you might have seen this like in city centres and stuff when you've been through. Sometimes they bring replicas of like cannons or guns or weapons. But they had like a cabinet where they were given this, talk to us. And then he's like, right at the end there, who wants to look at some guns? And so everyone goes, yeah, go ahead, yeah, shan't. And so he gets the first thing out and he cocks it and he goes, does anyone know what this is? And I went, that's an SA-80. And he's like, oh, very good. Yeah.
Keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on him.
Check his pockets for bullets on the way out. And then there was like, he said, oh, we've got another one here. I can't remember if it was like some type of like, it was either an M16 or anyway, whatever it was that I said, he looked at me again and he's gone, like, are you after my job? But all this knowledge that I had, sort of thing, was based on watching Schwarzenegger films in the 80s. So there was probably like a red flag in the school that went off. It's like, he's not even left school and he knows what all these fucking guns are and that, I probably ended up on a fucking register somewhere.
If he's got a trench coat, we're expelling him.
Basically, yeah. But no, and going back to what you were saying there, I've gone on a bit of a tangent in that, but yeah, I mean, she that I don't know what her name is, and I can't remember the character name, but
it is it's called Thumbelina.
Thumbelina. Oh, there you go. Postmodern before it was famous, but
But it's I didn't even click last night watching this film. It was only now like the pennies dropped for me, but all the women in this film are strong badasses. I mean, even if you look back to Recall, where you first see Quaid like having a fit, and the head guy comes in and like, "What the fuck did you do, you stupid bitch? I didn't even start the program yet." And you're like, she's badass. She takes nothing. And then you get in further, and every single woman in the cast is completely capable, strong, and dangerous as fuck. And and this was in the early 90s, where supposedly strong female characters never existed. And Verhoeven's got them, every single one of them. I mean, even Quaid's costume in the airport, even she gets a great line and go, "Oh, what'd she say before she blows up?" Like, surprise, is it? Yeah. I mean, even she gets a boss line, and she wasn't even a character.
Yeah. I love how that when he throws the head and then it cuts to the soldier holding it. I love how it's been like her face has been composited onto a dummy.
Yeah,
and like, the whole thing of like the way. I mean, it's even, yeah. So I was going back to before, wasn't I, talking about the physics of it all and that, and there's like this mad explosion that comes from it, and like it's dead fiery and then cracks all the windows. Like it's just so like it is almost like a kid has been given a pen to like draw or make the decisions that have been made. Now the explosion of fire would be bigger than that. Like none of it all makes sense, which is fine, and taps into the simulation thing and those type of elements and stuff. But yeah, she always reminded me, that woman in the airport, of a teacher I fucking hated in school called Miss Bradshaw.
I remember her. I never had. I don't think I ever had her for a class, but because you were in my tutor group at one point after Miss Bradshaw, and it was because Miss Bradshaw couldn't put up with you. And in our group, we used to take a lot of pleasure in just sitting there silent and listening to Miss Bradshaw shout at you and tell you to get out. It was every time. It was fantastic.
It was easier for me to be kicked out of a class than it was to stay in and listen to the fucking bullshit she talk. Because like she was an RE teacher who, basically just rammed religion down people's throats, which wasn't well, it's never a good look, is it? Do you know what I mean? But yeah, she always reminded me of her. But there's no like religious bits or anything in the film either, really, is there? Which is quite interesting. There's not like a cult of alien or anything like that that's going on the planet. It's all just, that's the pyramid what the aliens built. And that guy, when he's on the train, he goes, "Oh yeah, I used to work there," and it's kind of like this dead nonchalant thing that the aliens built it, but we've never switched it on or done anything with it.
And by the way, and everyone's very nonchalant about aliens in the galaxy. It's like, aliens, it's an alien pyramid, I'm what? Gonna get some air.
Get some fresh air. Yeah, going back to the alien thing as well, and the whole simulation. And I know it's not like a big deal or anything, but that final scene where he gets into the reactor, and all he's got to do is basically put these two fingers together, and then his hand fits perfectly into it, almost like it was a cast of his hand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not saying that, are they saying that Schwarzenegger's an alien or nothing like that, innit? But I just thought it's like, just very convenient. But again, it probably ties into the whole logic thing of the film where it just doesn't take it too seriously. But like, I don't think it's suggested at any point in the film that he's an alien. But other than that.
But again, it's something you can go, fucking hell, I've got to unpackage this now. He could be an alien. It's like, I'm struggling. Is it reality? Is it not? Now he's a fucking alien. It's like it's a film that gives so much and asks for so little. It's absolutely fantastic. And I've also got to say, it's another. It doesn't get spoken about enough, but how quotable this film is.
It's up there with Commando. Easily up there with Commando.
I mean, like, when we're just talking casually and like someone. Like we're getting into a taxi, and then you'll just naturally go, "It's a Johnny cab," and you'll like no one prompted you to say it, but you just end up doing it. Or like if you're looking to go on holiday somewhere with your bird, and you'll just go, "Honey, let us do it. Let's move to Mars."
Yeah, it is. It's Schwarzenegger. I think it's something to do with like his cadence and. It's not necessarily like delivered in a conventional way, given his Austrian dialect, but then because he's lived in America and delivers it for screen. I think if it's another actor doing it, I don't think it lands as well. It's like the stuff in Commando, stick around and let off some steam. There's loads of stuff. You go all the way back to Terminator, and like has there ever been a cooler line delivered in "I'll be back," followed by a fucking 70s Buick driven through a fucking police fucking lobby sort of thing. It is really quotable and just on the audio angle, like Jerry Goldsmith's score is fucking incredible. Like,
before last night, if you would have said that to me, I was with it. I don't really. I'll have to give it another watch. But yeah, watching it last night, it was outstanding. And you'd always seem to forget about Jerry Goldsmith when you're talking about great composers, but he is definitely up there as one of the best. And he makes a kind of score that doesn't necessarily draw attention from the film. It goes so well. It's the perfect companion piece for it, which a good score should be.
I mean, what I like about it is I fucking hate credit scenes at the beginning of a film that go on for ages and it's not really showing you anything. It's just kind of, text or graphics coming up on the screen, with not much going on. And the thing that gets me through this is his score at the beginning, and it's like it sounds like almost like it's got this beat, like, and it's almost like someone hitting an anvil.
Yeah, like,
it just kind of ties into the whole he's a construction worker thing. He's kind of this blue collar fella, sort of, and that's the only real, other than it being like the 80s, and it's got almost, it's not electronic, is it? But it's got a certain 80s feel to it, in the vein that something like Running Man is a lot more 80s than it's a different end of the spectrum sort of thing. But I mean, I'm pretty sure it was Jerry Goldsmith who wrote the Alien soundtrack and did that famous cue, which has been reused and reused in film trailers since. I mean, that climactic end in Aliens is fucking incredible.
No, that's James Horner
It is James Horner, isn't it?
But it is very similar. The Total Recall, especially with the like the iron sounds. I don't know how they do it, but it's very Aliens, and it's got. I'm not musically. I don't know anything about music, but it's got that the trumpets, the bassoons going, or whatever it is, and it's very dramatic and epic.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is very Aliens.
Yeah. No, it's one of the things I really enjoy. I mean, there was a special edition soundtrack. There was the original sort of one that got released, and then there was, I think it was the 10th, maybe the 20th anniversary. There was a special edition soundtrack, and I think it's got nearly 40 cues on it. Some of them aren't used, and I found it in like a charity shop once for like £1.50, and like I was like, oh my god, fucking hell, I'm having that. And I've sat down and listened to it, digitized it, and I'm just like, I couldn't imagine what this being on any other film. Like, the music is that seared into sort of the imagery now that I've watched it. Yeah. I can't separate one without the other. And to me, that's always the hallmark of a really sort of iconic score, that you can listen to the soundtrack and it generates sort of all the imagery and the story in your mind. You know, it's kind of like, you know, I haven't watched the film. You know, it's that's how good this score is.
Yeah, completely agree, mate. In terms of Paul Verhoeven, how would you rank Total Recall? Because it's a really hard thing for me to do, because I really love a lot of his films.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Verhoeven is, I've only ever watched this sort of mainstream stuff. Now, I think the first film that he made, which was a World War II film with Rutger Hauer in, it's something, I can't remember the name of it, but I've been trying to get round to seeking that out and watching that, because, you know, that's apparently what got him, or, you know, started his journey to get over to make these films.
Is that Soldier of Orange?
Soldier of Orange, that's the one. So I'm really, obviously, huge Rutger Hauer fan. And so to see what they got up to working together, whatever that project was, is really interesting to me. And what I will say is that, you know, having only seen the later stuff in his career, it is really difficult to separate Total Recall from Robocop and Starship Troopers, but the films which are kind of tonally really really similar, and in one way or another, they all deal with sort of corporate fascism, and like they're very much like, you could triple bill them really easy. Basic Instinct, I've only ever seen once, and it just wasn't, I don't know what it was, just weren't for me, really. It didn't, it kind of, it got all hyped up and everything, didn't it? Because of, you know, did she got her underwear on or whatever, and it kind of, you know, I've seen a woman with 3 tits in Total Recall, like, a bit of a beaver slip isn't gonna be a fucking sort of, which would make me, you know, rewatch a film. But yeah, it's different. I mean, I think Showgirls has aged really well.
I'm gonna shock you here. I fucking love Showgirls.
Well, like, I remember watching it, obviously, back in the day, for the reason of the main character was, you know, the tall, attractive one from Saved by the Bell, and it was like, fucking hell, she's going to get a kit off here. I watched it again. There was an anniversary of that quite recently as well, and, you know, I'm not saying it's Casino by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a really well-made film, and, you know, there's lots of sort of stuff going on below the surface. It's not, you know, tits and arse for the sake of tits and arse, and she's quite a complex character. I just don't think necessarily that. I think a character name's Numi. I can't remember the girl who played her, but maybe she wasn't the right choice to be in that role. But
I'd argue against that.
She's oh, is she? Yeah, okay. In your mind, yeah.
Yeah. Elizabeth Berkley.
Elizabeth Berkley. Well, yeah, there's a shout then. Would you rather have her being cast or Sharon Stone within that role if she was young enough?
Oh, goddamn. Well, it's Sharon Stone, innit? Because Sharon's, no offense to Elizabeth Berkley, but Sharon Stone's just a superior actor in every way.
Yeah. But, you know, I wouldn't necessarily put, I don't know. Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, it's between Robocop and Total Recall for me, which is at the pinnacle of Verhoeven, but they're so similar in many ways. Probably would just say Total Recall edges it for me.
I think I'm with you, mate. I think I am. I mean, I'm a lot like you. They're the main films that I've seen of his. I did watch Flesh and Blood recently with Rutger Hauer. It was an interesting film, but it was nowhere near as Robocop, Total Recall, Starship Troopers.
What's the gist of it? I've heard of it. I've seen the poster and stuff, and again, it always sticks out. And I think, I should watch that.
Oh, it's like this group of bandits, and they take a castle, and they capture this not so much not a princess, but kind of a princess type character who's played by, what's her name? She was in The Hitcher. Oh, it is Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
And then it's really mainly about Jennifer Jason Leigh's character. Is she succumbing to Stockholm syndrome and falling in love with Rutger Hauer, or is she duplicitous? I'm never going to say that word, but you know what I mean. And waiting for her fella to come and rescue her, and it is quite interesting. It's but yeah, it's nowhere near as good as his other films.
Sounds like thematically it's similar though. It's like in his canon, Verhoeven, like Total Recall is about like power, isn't it, and about like domination and stuff. And seems like it's a similar theme there, kind of within that. You know, with all those other elements. And like I said, I've not seen Soldier of Orange. Is it Soldier of Orange? Did you say?
Let me double check. Yeah, Soldier of Orange.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to buy. I'm going to go on Amazon after this and see how cheap I can get it for.
Yeah, I'd like to see his later film. Benedetta was meant to be really that was getting really good reviews. Although Black Book, another one of his that was meant to be really good back in 2006. But before that, it was Hollow Man.
Did he make Hollow Man? Did he?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
It's an odd one, Hollow Man, for Paul Verhoeven, although it does deal with power and corruption. So it's
yeah,
it is within his purview. But I don't know. I think I've got. It's really tough between Robocop, Total Recall, and Starship Troopers for me. That's like really that like you said that's a perfect little Verhoeven trilogy. I think.
If there was like a cinema, like his local town, you know, what was showing those on a triple bill, I'd try and get myself out there, and
that'd be amazing.
That like, you know, to watch those. It'd be cool if there was a little Verhoeven season on somewhere. But he probably lives in LA now, doesn't he? So,
well, I would watch that throughout the day because, like you were saying before, he's he doesn't take himself too seriously, but he puts across a serious message in his films, but doesn't hammer it home at you or talk down to you. They are just fun, great, entertaining films to watch, and gratifyingly gruesome, every single one of them.
I mean, it's mad, isn't it, that those films, like, I mean, I remember Starship Troopers was a 15 on release in the UK.
It was. I went to pictures to see it.
Yeah, same here. And I couldn't fucking believe it. I was like, oh, this is amazing. This fucking spectacle of, you know, people getting shredded and, you know, the physical effects and then the digital compositing and stuff. And
same-sex showers.
You were looking at the arse when he walked out, weren't you?
It's like, damn,
not at the judge. Not at the judge. But yeah, I mean, like that. And when it was released, I remember it was an 18, and I was like, "Whoa, that's mad!" That it was a 15 in the cinema and then an 18 on release.
Yeah,
I'm curious to understand if it was a completely different cut that was released in the cinemas, but I've got to be honest, it didn't feel like it because that had such an impact on the first viewing. I'd have noticed when I watched it on release if it was different.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to, I can't recall anything being cut out myself. It seemed like pretty straightforward, and I was shocked at that as well, because the same happened to Con Air. That was a 15 when it came out over here, and an 18 on VHS and DVD. It was absolutely nuts. But yeah, Starship Troopers, man.
I always wondered if part of that might be, you know, like with DVDs, you've got deleted scenes, special features and stuff. If there's something within a deleted scene which would push it, you know what I mean? Like, that's the reason why. Because, I mean, there wasn't a hell of a lot of stuff on the Starship Troopers release, especially on the DVD. In fact, I remember being disappointed. I was like, trailer. I think there might have been a deleted scene.
I seem to remember there being a lot, but it was a long time ago. So I think
there might have been an audio commentary.
Yeah.
But it was with Total Recall, since I've owned that on DVD, like every iteration that's been released, there's new features and, you know, the old ones that have gone before it. So, but yeah, I wonder if that's what pushed it over the edge for the 18th iteration.
I've never really thought of it like that. If they do review everything, or if it's just the film, that'd be fascinating.
Yeah.
But what's even more fascinating, and I can't find it anywhere, is you've got a copy of Total Recall on DVD, and it's a circular shape for Mars, and it's a tin.
Yeah. So this we'd have been college years, Hugh Bird maybe, so what, 16, 17, we're talking 2002, 2003, I think.
Yeah.
So it was when Amazon really at first got on the radar on the internet. And what I realised was the American editions, the NTSCs, were different than the UK versions. So I was like, holy fuck. But what I didn't realise was, in my naivety, that you had to have an NTSC player as opposed to a PAL one. So I got there was a handful of films which I first bought together: Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, and Total Recall. And the Total Recall one was this weird circular tin, which was like the surface of Mars. It's got the face, the famous Mars face that's been picked up on images, that's kind of embossed into it. But the other reason for buying that was because it had so many different special features on. And yeah, I think I've lost. It sat in like a cardboard. It was the one sheet poster where it's Arnie's face in blue, and then the sort of silhouette affecting with the sun, but it's sat in the top of it, the other bit. It's probably in a box somewhere and that, but I have to dig that out. I don't know where it is. I don't need it now. I've got that 4K motherfucker, which has got everything you fucking ever need.
But it's still a lovely thing to showcase because you've got a few editions of it. It's nice to have a Total Recall collection on show. And that, like I said, I haven't been able to find it anywhere, so it is very rare. And it'd be really cool to show off.
Need to get a little price check on that. Might be worth throwing on the eBay.
Oh,
get some other sad bastard like me to fucking pay top whack for it. So, but no, it is one of them films which I own on like multiple medias. But yeah, it's the original. Did you ever see the original trailer, the teaser trailer for it?
No, I don't think I have.
Ah, fucking hell! Put it on the end of this video. Rip it off YouTube and put it on the end. It's really subtle, but it's really well done.
Like I'm thinking the Willow teaser trailer, like that one.
That is absolutely how I describe it in terms of subtlety, and it's kind of a riff on the poster, the same colours and design,
Ooh, nice.
Which I thought was incredible. By the way, like it's a really simple, straight back poster in many ways. That it's got Schwarzenegger's face on, so it's perfect for marketing and stuff. But it's just done in a way which. It's just the colours, the vibrance of it, and Universal Soldier like pretty much ripped that cover off in terms of.
Oh my God, it did, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's absolutely zero shame. I mean, I'd be really interested to see how close together they were released, but the whole casting of the red, blue, and black, yeah, it's really cool. Really stands out.
It is. Yeah, Universal Soldier was 2 years later, so definitely saw that and went, we'll have it. Same company as well, so TriStar.
There you go. It's not broke, don't fix it.
Exactly, yeah.
But to be fair, Universal Soldier, like, it's worth a shout, and for anyone who hasn't seen that, just alone in having Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren, it's got some fucking really good action set pieces in.
You know what? I watched it the once when I was probably when it came out on VHS or it was released on TV. Never got into it.
No,
I think I need to give it another watch.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I mean, I wouldn't go near any of the sequels, and to be honest, I never have, because I was always more of a Schwarzenegger fan than I was Van Damme or Lundgren. So I didn't really want to go and seek out any of the sequels or anything to it, but it in part it is really well made. And, the whole riff on the sort of super soldier program, the Captain America thing, and even the fucking Nazi thing of super soldiers, and it is kind of similar in terms of this American government is brainwashed or reanimated veterans from Vietnam and then brainwashed them into being just these mindless machines or soldiers, if you want, that act out any order. It's kind of cool in that sense. It's a little bit like sort of conspiracy theory and conspiracy truth in there, and kind of riffs off that, and Van Damme in it, and Dolph Lundgren gives a pretty like charismatic performance, and really a funny performance. He's kind of his character is one of like Sean Penn in Casualties of War sort of thing, where he's just a fucking horrible cunt and wants to like just do whatever it is that he wants, and kind of goes off mission to fulfill his sort of ambitions or whatever. It's similar in that, but it's got his performance has got a real levity to it, which which again, it's not too serious for the film, which makes it more believable.
The only thing I can really remember from Universal Soldier is Dolph Lundgren and him doing his "I'm all ears."
Yeah,
and that's literally the only thing I can remember.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, like for people who are fan of like 80s, 90s action films, you'll recognise loads of sort of the supporting cast in it and the people who play the other Unisol soldiers. They're all faces. Like there's the big German guy from Gladiator. He's in there.
Oh yeah.
There's a few others, but no, it's worth a watch. I've got a copy of that here. If I'll drop it off next time I'm in back over Liverpool ways, and probably not worth buying, but it did have a really nice release not too long ago. So there might be a HD copy floating around on the internet somewhere.
Yeah, I'll definitely do it. Oh, Rance Howard, don't see him often. Yeah, I'll definitely do a borrow off you, mate. I'll give it a whirl. It's because it's got a lot of love. Universal Soldier, everyone raves about it. If it's a campy level or genuinely a good film, people think fondly of it. So yeah, it's definitely deserves another watch from myself, and I'll see what it's about. I can't see me liking it that much because it's got no nostalgia value to me. I think nostalgia helps with these types of films, but yeah, I'll definitely give it a whirl.
Cool.
So, mate, I think. Well, I've got no more talking points on Total Recall. I think we've covered the whole shebang.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, happy with that. Thank you very much, mate. It's been good to kind of vent love about this film. It's
Recall about Total Recall.
Yeah. Oh yeah, what a great. Well, before we go, actually, in terms of Arnold Schwarzenegger, where would you put his performance? Not the film alone, but his performance in his back catalogue. One of his bests, or just classic, typical Arnie?
Terminator's never getting beat, is it? Unfortunately, the original film, like
it's fucking perfect.
Yeah, for what it was at the time, for who he was and all that, and by that I mean, he wasn't a big established actor back then, and for all the reasons why they said he wouldn't be a Hollywood megastar, that's why he was right to do that Terminator role. But I always feel like, in a way, that everything was an evolution from that he did. Just unfortunately for him, he'd set the bar so high, but maybe that's a problem with people's perception of him and the way he speaks and the way he looks, as opposed to his actual skill as an actor. But, there's no point where really in this film Arnie's performance takes me out of it. And, am I expecting to see Brando on the waterfront? Is it? No. So for that reason, it's like Commando. Like, it's almost effortless for him with these type of films, I think. Conan as well. Like, it's really difficult to because he embodies it so much. These roles are so physical, and they're about, having a screen presence like he does, and the ability to sell a fight and to be able to sell heroism, and almost this sort of, I suppose what he's doing is like he is an avatar for like a male viewer. Like, if you wanted to be a hero, like, this is how you'd want to be, and sort of thing. So yeah, I do think it's a good performance. I don't know how I'd rank it because, like I said, it's difficult, but
it is a very difficult question. Yeah,
Yeah,
because he's done so much, and he strangely has a lot of variety to his films. He can do comedy.
He's not a shit out. He's not a shit out. I mean, so this is dead easy for me to say. It's better than his performance in Twins. It's better than his performance in Junior. It's better than his performance in Batman and Robin. It's better than his performance, arguably, in Kindergarten Cop. But then that riffs off, you know, again, he's playing against it. He's a teacher looking after kids, which, you know, it's not easy to do for someone who's an action hero sort of thing. And you know, he probably is the pinnacle, isn't he? Of there's never been anyone bigger than him. Like, don't care how many steroids the fucking Rock takes, how many times he fucking joins forces with Kevin Hart. He's never going to be as big as fucking Schwarzenegger ever.
I mean, for me personally, I really miss Schwarzenegger. I mean, I know he still acts and he still does films, but I miss 80s, 90s Schwarzenegger. He absolutely killed it in everything he'd done. And there was never really a bad performance because he was, like you said, so charismatic. He can, like in Total Recall, some of his one-liners are so cheesy, so tongue-in-cheek. Consider it a divorce. No one else could have done that except Arnie, and you go, yes, rooting for you on this. Only he has had the charisma to sell that kind of dialogue and still make you and have it not take you out the story.
Absolutely, he's better in Total Recall as well than he is in True Lies, I'd say. I mean, have you got his list of films up there?
Yeah.
Go on. So from after 1990, just give us a quick shout out, and I'll just say yes or no.
Okay, so 1990. So we're going to go into 91. Is Terminator 2: Judgment Day? Yeah. We have
No, I'd say on that. His performance in T2 is better than Total Recall, but that's because the whole film in general is arguably the greatest ever action film ever made.
And he gets more to do acting-wise in Terminator 2, so...
Well, that's what's great about the performance in Terminator 2, and it probably could be argued that it is better than Terminator 1 because he's got the Terminator 1 as his starting point in that as the robot, and then as he has the chip removed and he evolves. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's not like he's not a fucking stage actor or a fucking, you know, a musical star by the end of the film or anything, but there's a lot more of an arc for him in terms of getting subtleties out of emotion and that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say he's better in T2 than he is in Total Recall.
Last Action Hero.
I fucking love that film, but you know, Jack Slater, I especially like Jack Slater's daughter, who for me was not cast in enough.
Who is Jack Slater's daughter?
She's absolutely stunning.
Let's have a look.
She's kind of Sharon Stoney-ish, sort of. But
is it Karen Duffy?
Yeah, I always wanted to be that kid with the magic ticket and just magic ticket me way into.
You looked a bit like him as well back in the day.
But that's a great film, and like, yeah, that's quite on the nose though, isn't it? So no, like, he's better than Total Recall than that, I'd say.
Yeah, True Lies we've covered. Junior, yeah, he's definitely better than Total Recall. Eraser, yeah,
fucking shite, but only compared to the other stuff. And
one of my favorite Christmas outings, Jingle All the Way.
Yeah, you know, again, he's just at that stage anyway. He can't quite do the action and stuff anymore, so
very much.
He's got a segue into the comic realm. But you know, who doesn't like Jingle All the Way? You know,
incredible film. But I think after that we get Batman and Robin, and then we start to see the decline of Arnie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think, yeah, Total Recall is one of his finer performances, and I think it was kind of his last great performance for the 90s, which is a shame because came out in 1990. But still, it was Terminator 2, of course, but
he's also played that role in a sense.
Yeah. But yeah, it's tough. He's boss.
Here's a question for you then.
Right.
Seems like you're throwing a fucking massive, difficult curveball there with that one. Total Recall was obviously redeveloped with Colin Farrell, with Len Wiseman directing, and Bryan Cranston. Pretty good pick for a Cohagen, or can't remember if he plays Cohagen or his different name or what have you. But Philip K. Dick's work does get regurgitated, and by that I mean there's always versions and iterations. We've had a Blade Runner sequel which is based on the Wanzoid's Dream of Electric Sheep. You had that Channel 4 series which reimagines all of his short stories into like almost, I suppose it was Philip K. Dick's version of Black Mirror. So like his work is constantly sort of getting made into different forms. I just think it's waiting to happen with Total Recall as a series because of the nature of what we were saying. There was so much unexplained in terms of the aliens, the mutants, why they moved to Mars specifically, and have they gone to other planets? Where would you like that to go, or would you even want to see that?
I wouldn't want to see it. I get the reason. Everything you everything that you said made perfect sense. It's got so much to it. I wouldn't want to see it just because I'm fed up of these TV series sprouting up from a single film. It's like From Dusk Till Dawn got a TV series. Even The Mist got a TV series. Peacemaker's got a TV series, and I'm like, you just fuck off with the TV series. They're not as good as you'd think, and I reckon if they did do a TV series, they would definitely go down the Alien route and kind of try and do what Prometheus tried to do and get really deep and philosophical about the creation of man. Where do we come from? And I love Total Recall because it's so much fun. And I think if you do a TV show of it, they're going to strip away that fun, and it becomes self-important, a think piece, a meditation on what it is to be human. And I mean, it depends. It's if they cast a good showrunner and they have a good cast, I wouldn't avoid it. I'd give it its day in court.
But it'd be a very short day.
It would be. They'd have to do something absolutely spectacular to blow these big old titties off my chest.
Do you think part of the problem is then that because of because I think Total Recall's got a really sort of unique tone, and it is a combination of, it's a bit like Chopper actually. It's the humour, not so much, but also the violence. And it's a very, very lean tightrope to walk. And it's even more difficult to sustain over a series than it would be a one-off film. Do you think that's probably the main gripe?
I reckon that's a very big aspect of it. It's the only way I'd be sold on it if Verhoeven was doing it. He would be the only person I could trust with this. It couldn't be a Len Wiseman. It didn't work. It needs to be needs to be Verhoeven because no one can be, because it ends up being a take on a Paul Verhoeven film, and you'd be able to smell it a mile off, and no one would have his eye for detail, like we were talking about with the guy on the escalator getting shot and trampled on. No one would even think of doing that, really. They just show it and move on. So yeah, it has to be Verhoeven with full reign. Like the studio go, here you go, Paul. If there was anything you didn't like about the process of making Total Recall, whatever that may be, you get to go again, and you get to do it your way. If there was anything you were unhappy with the first time, which I can't imagine there is much.
The only person other than Verhoeven who I'd trust, if I had the power to green light that, would be, I can't remember his name now, the bald guy with the glasses. He did Lost and the Watchmen TV series, Damien Lindelof.
I wouldn't fucking give him a short film, mate.
Really? Didn't you like the latest series of Watchmen?
I've not watched Watchmen. Honestly, I saw the trailer. I saw why does it exist? I will watch it just so I can prove myself right. But what it doesn't need. It's another case of a film getting a TV show that it has no right of having. It's
the exception, though. I think it's the exception. That's how good it is.
And Lost, no fucking way, mate.
Well, that's exactly what I did. Happened to me watching it. Like, I did get lost, and I just lost interest in the whole thing. But you know, when you watch this TV series, it's like nobody asked for it. Well, I certainly didn't anyway. And I was a fan of the film. I liked the film for what it was, and
the film's it's pretty accurate to the novel. So
yeah, I mean, like I've never read the novel. I've never sat there, and I find it really difficult with the comic angle sort of thing to sit there and go through it and that. But I always really enjoyed it, and I didn't ever think, oh, there's going to be a spin-off or a sequel. But the way it's done is just executed so well. But that's only in turn because Lindelof probably is the biggest Watchmen fan on the planet after. He's probably a bigger fan of Watchmen than Alan Moore is, to be honest. But he's the only person I would trust with a Total Recall HBO spin-off series, which starts with Quaid getting recruited into Cohagen's, corporation or whatever you want to call it. And then it's that story up to him having his mind wiped, and then you've got the film, which can still exist as its thing. That's what I'd go for.
If Lindelof done it, Arnie or Arnie's character would end up getting chased around by Sharon Stone's fart, and he'd be going, "Isn't this intellectual?"
You'd pay for that. You'd pay to get chased around by Sharon Stone's fart.
I would. I'm gonna make inquiries about it after this. No, but it's interesting. It's it's fun to go build your dream team of. It's like fantasy football, innit? But for films, it's
absolutely, yeah.
But I think either way, it'd have interesting effects, positive or negative. It'd be cool because I really like yourself. I really like that world that Verhoeven created. It's and the way he made the film, like we said, there's so many questions, and it's a lot like the alien pyramids. We're interested. Like, what happens if we turn it on? What happens if we get a TV show? Put your big hands on that alien paw print and let's get a TV show.
Put your fingers in the pud and get it going.
Yeah, I'll be sucked out the mountain and have my eyes pop out my head. Lindelof!
Again, another gruesomely violent element of the film, which is like seeing people's eyes be fucking sucked from the head along with the tongue and the swelling. Like that's an element that we didn't talk about, but that again, just so much going on. It's hard to cram into one concise podcast. But
it is, especially a podcast that wasn't really planned. We just winged it.
Yeah, they're the best ones.
Well, we'll leave it there, mate. That's it's been a good chat on Total Recall. You've highlighted quite a few things that didn't even pop into this old coconut. So it's a lot
going on in that coconut, lads.
Right, mate. I will let you get back to your day. Thanks for coming on and waxing lyrical again with me about a fucking great film.
You're welcome. Anytime.
That's right, mate. Right. I'll catch you in a bit.
Au revoir.
Adios.